Grand opening, grand closing. Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers, your only friend these YouTube streets, Porter77, back with another video. And I know it's been a couple of days since the podcast. I have not pushed any content and all of that, and I apologize. Well, part of it is because of the PlayStation 5 Pro. Got it, I'm playing it. It's amazing, but I want to talk to you about my initial impression of the PS5 Pro. Now, I will say this. I didn't do what a lot of the gamers who got the Pro are doing. Many of them are re-downloading PS5 Pro enhanced games like Spider-Man and Hogwarts Legacy and all this stuff. And they're just going through a little bit of snippets, taking photos just to show the huge difference. And it's just absolutely remarkable. The truth is, I'm going to be honest, even what you're seeing online doesn't do it justice. Like the difference and is, how good it looks, you just have to have it and see it for yourself, right? But I'm going to explain a little bit of what I'm doing or what I did. And really, it was just Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That is what I'm playing now. And it's not just a screen grab or snatch. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it fully through and I'm going to beat it. But before that, right, there's a reason why I'm using that game specific. But in order to understand, I need to go back to the beginning, way beginning. And that begins with the PlayStation 4 Pro. I did not get the PlayStation 4 Pro. I didn't get it. And the main reason why is the one thing I would have liked the Pro to do, it didn't do, which was start the process or start the capability of having performance mode. That's what I was hoping. And it didn't do that. I think only a few games did it. I think Neo 2 was one of those games where it had a performance mode at 720p, 60 frames or something like that. Very few games supported performance mode. That was actually the main thing I was looking for out of the PS4 Pro. Sure, the PS4 Pro bought this checkerboard or, 4K 30. So now people can enjoy watching, while playing the game at 4K resolution or fake 4K, whatever you want to call it. We all know. We're all used to it by now, right? At 30 frames. And I'm thinking, well, if you're running these games at 4K 30, maybe now we can get the 1080p because that was the base PS4. We were used to playing games at 1080p 30. Now maybe we can get 1080p 60, 4K 30, but 1080p 60 performance options. And I thought the Pro would start to standardize that, right? It would be the beginning of standardizing, providing performance options. But it didn't happen, right? And because it didn't happen, the solution, or not even the solution, the narrative or the advice we were getting is, if you really want to play on a gaming platform that gives you majority of games at 60 frames, you got to go to PC. Consoles will always be locked at 30 frames because of graphics, the bells and whistles. You're not going to get they're not going to give you the option. You're always going to be stuck at 30 frames unless it's one of those games where you need 60 frames like Call of Duty, first person shooters. Then they're going to multiplayer. Then they're going to do 60 frames. But everything else, the games that you want to play, the single player games that you want to play, they're always going to go after the bells and whistles. It's always going to be whatever resolution, 30 frames. You don't want to be stuck in that world. You want more options for 60 frames. You got to go to PC. So that was the whole narrative last gen. Now they introduced the new consoles, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X in 2020. And primarily, these consoles was built with performance mode in mind. Especially with PlayStation, that definitely pushed the frames. Mark Cerny talked about it. They wanted to make sure that the consumers of PlayStation 5 finally got the frame options and stuff like that. And they did. Majority of the games have performance mode or are natively 60 frames. There's only a few outliers that you'll see a fanboy or grifter. They'll point to one specific game and then they'll chastise the whole entire library or the majority of the library when in fact PlayStation 5 primarily is a 60 FPS machine across the majority of all games, right? And it's even pretty amazing because it's $400. When you look at what's embedded in the hardware, it's basically a $450 machine because the $500 machine is only $500 because of the disk drive, which doesn't add any performance. It's just a disk drive. So in its purest form in terms of tech, PlayStation is a $400 to $450 machine, and it does a phenomenal job of giving you games at 60 FPS. Now, it does come at a cost, right? It comes at a concession. And that concession is lowering down, settings, lowering down resolution, you know, um, it's kind of like PC. If you don't have a top of the line card, you have like a 3050, 3060, 4050 or 2070, you have to make a concession if you want the frames up. You're going to have to lower settings, whatever. So with these performance options on the PS5, you're going to get lower settings, lower fidelity as compared to the fidelity mode, right? But overall, a decent overall experience. And I would say some publishers did better than others. I would say Sony as a publisher did it the best. They did an amazing job of having their game still look great in performance mode. Horizon Zero Dawn looks fantastic, especially when they added extra performance options with VRR and high frame rate. You saw Spider-Man with 60 frames with ray tracing, 1080p, but what they did was like they really minimized the population, so there's not a lot of people on the streets. No rate, they minimize other stuff. They balance concessions to meet stuff, right? But overall, I think Sony as a PlayStation publisher did a phenomenal job of trying to get the best fidelity you could possibly get while at 60 frames. But of course, the fidelity mode, which is locked at 30 frames, they, it's the absolute best visuals. You'll get the ray tracing, depending on the game and all that. But they did also take a step further because some games, they'll just say, you know what, we'll just unlock the frame rates and we'll just let the game do it again. So you get full fidelity, at whatever, sometimes 50 frames, but VR smooths it out. They did a good job, okay, overall. And I would say majority across the board did a good job. There's some hit and misses there. Some games are at 55 frames and all that stuff, but with VRR smooths it out. But generally speaking, for a $400 machine, it does a good job. You have a great machine. You have options. Most of the games will give you performance options. There's very few games where you're stuck at 30 FPS with no options to play the game at 60 frames. Very few games. So generally, the thought of you need PC to play games at 60 frames is no longer a narrative. That was a narrative last gen, even during the PS3 360 gen, but definitely not this gen. Majority of games are 60 frames and whatever. Now, of course, if you want better, higher quality graphics at 60 frames, of course, they're back to PC until now, right? The PS5 Pro now blends that concession, right? That concession that separates performance and fidelity. PS5 Pro now brings those two together, so now you have the options for both. And this is where Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes into play. If you've seen my channel, if you listened to me before, my podcast, and maybe you probably don't remember me saying this, but with Square Enix, I am disappointed in their technical proficiency. I think this is probably the worst gen for Square Enix in terms of technical proficiency. I never seen them so slow to the punch in trying to give you the best graphics performance. I'm not used to that. Generally, Square Enix usually is at the top. They usually make graphical, compelling games running at great frame rates, just generally great. But this gen, they release a game and then it takes months for them to patch it to give you a better experience, better performance and stuff like that. They did it with Forspoken. They did it with Final Fantasy 16. They're doing it now with Final Fantasy Rebirth. It's just really across the board. They generally are like slow to the punch on what they can do. They're like, all right. When I play the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo, and again, most of my games I play in performance mode. I play at 60 frames and they're generally good. And of course, I try the fidelity mode just to see how far off, and you do see a difference between the two modes. But I have to tell you, when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I never seen so far out of anybody such a drastic separation of performance mode and the 4K fidelity mode. If you haven't played the demo, go play the demo. Even if you're not interested, so you can see what I'm talking about. Because in the demo, you have Final Fantasy VII, the fidelity mode, 4K 30, and it looks great. You're just sitting there looking at the picture. You're looking at the open world. It just looks great. But then when you play in performance mode, you can get the 60 frames. It just completely changes. It's muddy textures, very blurry. It's not even capping. I was like, wow. And once again, in my mind, I already know. I'm like, oh, here we go, Square Enix. Once again, it's going to be months before they release a patch to improve the quality, the fidelity, just like they always do. And that's exactly what happened. They updated the graphics, whatever, or improvements, whatever, optimized, and then they added like performance sharp mode or performance soften mode. So that way you can kind of, you know, decide in your performance mode how you want your graphics to look. And there was a little bit better improvement, but not so much. I mean, it's just Square Enix. I don't know what it is with them. But then PS5 Pro got announced, and the talk was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was going to be Pro enhanced. And I'm like, okay, let me wait this out and see how this goes. When Digital Foundry was the first one to show videos, excuse me, of Final Fantasy Rebirth, that now you get in the fidelity of Final Fantasy Rebirth with even better image quality because they showed it even looks better. But now at 60 frames, I was like, that. I'm gonna be honest, that's what really sold me. That one game, that one game made it worth it for me to get the Pro. I'm like, I'm done. I'm all in. Right? That's exactly, and it's for two reasons. Right? Well, before I get to the two reasons, so the Digital Founder videos, seeing it, looking at compare, because I played the demo, so I know how far apart the performance mode and the fidelity mode for Final Fantasy is. And most of you who play the demo, you know it too. It's a drastic concession you have to do. You play in performance mode, you're losing a lot in image quality. I think it's probably the biggest gap I've ever seen compared to other games. It's huge, right? Um, so with Digital Foundry showing like not only great fidelity, but even better at 60 frames, I'm like, this is a win, right? So I came in confident knowing that I'm gonna get this, right? Because I don't think Digital Foundry is gonna lie and Adobe Photoshop this stuff or whatever. So that's really the first thing I went after. I went after Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I installed it, played it, and my God, the fidelity, the specific mode they created for PS5 Pro, I'm playing it and it's gorgeous, right? It's at its full fidelity, even does look better than the fidelity on the on the regular PS5, but it's buttery smooth 60 frames. That's it already. It already did its job, right? Now, this game to me validates, this game, this game does exactly what I wanted because there's two reasons. Number one, it is a difference. I get the beautiful world Final Fantasy Rebirth has, and I'm playing it at 60 frames, so that's amazing in itself. But what makes it even more is amazing, right? Because this game spells how much great gaming is going to be on the PlayStation 5 Pro going forward from other developers. Because, like I said, I have not been too happy or kind of disappointed in Square Enix's technical competence in their games. So if Square Enix, to me, who this gen is not really high up on the technical capabilities, I think they're pretty low on the bar. Not as bad as single A devs or trip or double A devs. I think in the triple A space, they're on the bottom. They're not. They're they don't have that fine tuned technical competence. And if this is what they can do on the PS5 Pro right out the gate, then I have absolute confidence in so many other developers doing wonderful things on this. It's gonna be amazing what other developers are gonna do on their games and stuff like that. If Square Enix can achieve what they achieve on the PS5 Pro with Final Fantasy Rebirth, I have no doubt on the technical competence and capabilities of other AAA developers on what they're going to bring to the table. And this is just out the gate. This is all new stuff. This is just all new launch stuff. This is like PSSR version 1.0 and developers are just getting their hands, right? Because I doubt the developers even had this stuff for 2 years. I don't think they had this stuff for 2 years. Maybe a year or so, if that. And look what they're doing right out the gate. So as years go by, more and more time goes by, we're just gonna have better looking games. Um, I saw a video. I think it was NXT Gamer, right, making a video. He's saying that not even all the developers are even on the same PSSR software level. Some are working with different variations. Kind of weird. I don't know how. Because I would think that Sony would just send the update to everybody and everybody has access to it. But I think he was mentioning something to the terms of because of how far into the work they got, they couldn't update it to complete the work. I don't know, some weird stuff, right? But he's saying that not everybody's even at the latest software version. Some developers are working with what they got, and they're still producing incredible results. Excuse me for all the sniffling. As PSSR gets better and better, because Sony's going to continue to improve this technology, no different than NVIDIA improved the DLSS, which is currently at 3.7. AMD with FSR, which is currently at 3.1, right? So these technologies always get better and improved. So PSSR out the gate is already, according to Digital Foundry, surpassing FSR 3.1 and XESS um, technical capabilities, but slightly under DLSS, under DLSS. But again, DLSS is at 3.7. I think DLSS came out in 2019, if I'm correct. So that's 5 years of improvements, developments, data, seeing how it works, and they just constantly improve it year over year over year. So you're talking some technology that's already 5 years ahead in the game versus this brand new technology that's now is out there. And now that it's out there now, it's out there, it's everywhere, right? Sony's capturing more data, more developers are pitching in, more developers using technology, and Sony's just going to constantly improve this technology, right? Things are going to be great, right, with this console. This to me is the absolute best mid-gen refresh. This is what mid-gen refresh should be about, right? It's fantastic. In Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, just completely, that's it, right? After I beat Final Fantasy's Rebirth, I'll go on to the next game. See what other pro enhanced games are at. Um, but it's gonna be new games. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to old games. Right? Like I really enjoyed it. Um, I enjoyed Spider Man. I enjoyed all these games. Right? And I know there's like an appetite to just be curious. Like how does this game look now? Right? But I'm more concerned with going forward. I want to go after the games like what you call it? Excuse me. Oh my God, Velguard on Dragon Age. I'm gonna get Dragon Age Velguard. Definitely want to try that out. Right. Hearing great things about it. And I think it's pro enhanced. So I want to try that out. Black Rift Wukong, is that pro enhanced? I have to look at the games that I'm still trying to get and play, and I'm gonna prioritize the pro enhanced games. But some of those games are still in the good block and stuff like that. And then there's games that I never really gave a chance, that I always wanted to give a chance, but I'm kind of skeptical, like Baldur's Gate. Kind of skeptical that if I would, like, I look at it, a lot of people saying play it, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna really like this game. But so many people said that it's just amazing. I might play, I might get to it, but that game is also pro enhanced and stuff like that, right? Alan Wake 2 pro enhanced. So there's a lot of new games that I can actually go enjoy a new experience and enjoy the pro enhancements, right? So that's gonna be more down the line, right? But as far as my initial impression, the only game I got going is Final Fantasy Rebirth, and I think out of any game that got pro enhanced, that one is the biggest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, download the demo. It should be still available. Download the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo, put it in 4K 30, and then put it in performance mode. You're going to see a huge value gap. You're gonna see what it took to sacrifice to get that game to 60 frames. And then again, it's not the norm because other games, especially Sony's first party, whether it's Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Returnal, whatever, Demon Souls remake, it's not that big of a difference, right? But the difference in sacrifice is huge, right? For Final Fantasy Rebirth, right? Okay, and Pro resolves that easily. It clears it. In fact, the specific performance mode for the Pro, the game looks better than the native fidelity of the PS5 base at 4K 30. At 4K 60 for the Pro looks better than 4K 30 on the base PS5. It's incredible, right? So that tells me that if Square Enix is able to do that, then imagine the other developers that, in my opinion, are more technically capable um, to take advantage of the PS5 Pro. How far they're gonna go, and then also over time, things are just gonna get better. So this is amazing technology. I'm so glad I got the PS5 Pro. I'm so glad Sony made the right decision to focus more on the technology and not so much on the price point. In my opinion, the $400 price point of the PS4 Pro is what held it back. Is what really held it back. I think if the Pro was $500 or $600, we would have gotten performance mode. If the Pro was $600, we would have gotten performance mode, right? I mean, look at the Xbox One X. It was $500, and it got 4K textures and settings. You didn't get that on the Pro. I mean, it's pretty much simple logic. Something more expensive, technology having more expensive, you're gonna tend to have better hardware behind it, right? Generally, for the most part. Xbox One X had better hardware than the PS4 Pro, and therefore was more expensive, $500. And I think Microsoft actually sold the One X at a loss, so it was probably built at $550, maybe $600, and then they sold it for $500, take a loss. While on the flip side, I don't think the PS4 Pro was sold at a loss. So I think Sony sold it at $4 and made profit, even if it's just $10 profit or $15 profit, whatever. I don't think that console was built with $400. It was probably built between 350 to 390. Let's say that range. And you're generally not going to get a lot of technology in that price range. If you want more technology, you got to pay more. So and before even the official price was announced for the PlayStation 5 Pro, if you saw this channel, especially on the podcast, with Extreme made the point, I made the point, we all made the point that if this console is $500, you're not going to get much out of it. You got to put in the money. It's the only way you're going to get good technology. It's going to cost. You're not going to get great technology out of it. With the announcement of this console, $700, without the disk drive, I know more of that money got put into technology. I don't see Sony losing money, but at the same time, I don't see Sony making incredible profit off the console. They're probably making maybe $25, if that, right? I don't see them making $100, $150 in profit off this. It's just generally just enough to not dip in to the profits in their other segments, right? So they're probably making $20, $25 of profit, right? Eventually, the profit margins of this console are going to increase because even though it's going to be shaped the same, the internals, they're going to get it cheaper, they're going to get the price down, they're going to get manufacturing, and they're going to increase those margins of profitability, right? Without you even noticing things change because it looks the shape. And I will be honest, I even took a pictures on my Twitter. The size difference between the Pro and the base PS5 is insane. The base PS5 is huge, and this thing is much lighter, much slimmer, and to have all this technology. Right? One last thing is the fact that the PS5 Pro is having new technology this gen that allows developers to work on it this gen spells great things, let's say 4 years from now, maybe even more, depending on Sony's idea of when next gen starts, right? The PlayStation 6. The PlayStation 6 is going to benefit immensely from PSSR. It's it's going to be an exciting time. I'm glad Sony is at the forefront and still have consoles in mind. I know there's a lot of little side things and things going on, right? But for the most part, you don't go deep into this technology if you have no intention of creating a next gen console. There's some people hyping no PS6, then this will be pointless. What will be the point of creating PSSR if you don't have a next generation console to use it? You're just gonna create it for the mid-gen refresh and then that's it. You're just gonna go into cloud streaming. There's a lot of misinformation. And they're still doing it today. You see Xbox content creators and stuff, and I'm listening, and I'm gonna be honest. At this point, it just gets old and tiring. They're saying the same stuff, and none of them are truly learning about the gaming or the gaming industry and stuff in general. They're just saying stuff because they're just coping and they're just pissed off that they can't partake, right? Because the reality is they want a mid-gen refresh. They're hoping to get a mid-gen refresh, but they can't get it. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. I'll have a video of PC and Xbox fanboys coping and seething tomorrow. I'll upload that tomorrow because they just got their range. They're demented. They're just saying insane stuff. So I'm going to show you guys that tomorrow. But anyway, Pro, amazing so far. I'm really so happy. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth alone, that game by itself, right, is worth its weight in gold. Okay, so I have no doubt what's coming is even better, and I'm just so excited that I'm gonna be playing all the future games, whether it's third party, Sony's first party, second party, whatever. That from this point forward, the PlayStation 5 is an amazing console and gave me an amazing experience this gen. And now I upgraded, and I cannot wait to see what more. Right, gone are the days of me trying to choose performance with a concession on the PlayStation. Now I got a PlayStation console that gives me both. And that's what I love about technology. Last gen I was told, oh, I gotta go get PC because I'm gonna be stuck at 30 frames. This gen started out now that I'm getting 60 frames, but then I got told, well, you gotta go with PC if you want higher fidelity at 60 frames. And now I got the Pro and I'm getting higher fidelity and 60 frames. Now they're giving me all new reason. Well, if you want ultra settings, you gotta get PC with a 4090. It's always the goalpost is always gonna move with these guys. They're always gonna tell me something. You gotta get PC if you want this, right? It's whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're a console gamer, and especially you're a PlayStation console gamer, this is a good thing. It's great. It's a great machine. Fantastic. Anyway, your only friend is YouTube Street Porter77. If you're new to the channel, I hope you stick around. Hit the subscribe and like button. I will check you guys out soon. Until then, you guys take care. I'm going back and enjoy my PlayStation 5 Pro. You guys take care. Peace. Grand opening